The observation deck fell silent when Mira Lockwood stepped through the airlock, not the comfortable silence that usually accompanied her returns from planetside missions, but the sharp, brittle kind that preceded storms. She moved with her usual efficiency, magnetic boots clicking against the metal flooring of the Exodus Dawn, humanity's first deep space diplomatic vessel. Her environmental suit bore scorch marks along the left shoulder, and her helmet visor had a hairline fracture that spiderwebbed across her field of vision. But it was the bruise, deep purple and angry, blooming across her left cheekbone and temple, that made Ambassador Thren's translator implant emit a distressed chirp. "Lockwood," the Velrian ambassador began, his crest feathers rising in concern. He didn't get to finish. Two small figures bolted across the observation deck, their juvenile exoskeletons still soft and gleaming with youth. Kex reached Mira first, his antennae vibrating with such intensity that they hummed audibly. Tivy was half a second behind, her mandibles clicking in rapid-fire succession. "Names," Kex demanded, his translator struggling to keep pace with his agitation. "Names now. Before explanation, before excuse." Mira paused mid-step, one hand reaching up to release her helmet seals. She looked down at the two Kitar cubs, each barely reaching her waist, and something in her expression softened despite the obvious pain. "The names of who hurt you," Tivy added, her voice carrying the peculiar harmonic quality of Kitar youth. "You give names. We remember. We always remember." Ambassador Thren shifted uncomfortably. The three other species representatives present a crystalline shard, a gelatinous quelon, and a vapor form. Wiesent remained carefully neutral, but their attention was absolute. This was, after all, why they were all here. To observe, to learn about humans and their bizarre insistence on personal interaction with potentially hostile species. Mira finally removed her helmet, revealing the full extent of the bruising. Her right eye was nearly swollen shut, and dried blood traced a thin line from her temple to her jaw. "The names," Kex insisted again, taking a step closer, his young voice cracked with emotion that the translator rendered as protective fury. "We are small now, but we remember. Kitar always remember our debts. You saved Tivy when the reactor breach. You carried me through the fire," Tivy interrupted. "Your hands burned. We saw the blisters. That was months ago," Mira said quietly, kneeling down despite the obvious pain in her movements. She was now eye level with the cubs. "And it was my job. Humans keep saying that." Kex's antennae flattened against his head in what Mira had learned was frustration. "But we know different. We know humans don't have to run toward danger. We know humans feel fear like everyone else," Ambassador Thren explained. "You choose to come back hurt." Mira's smile was tired but genuine. The Tereki delegation got enthusiastic during negotiations. It was a misunderstanding. Misunderstanding does not leave marks. Tivy's mandibles clicked sharply. Violence leaves marks. We know violence. "Names." "Mira Lockwood, tell us names." Ambassador Thren finally stepped forward, his diplomatic training overriding his discomfort. "Lockwood, you are not obligated to." "Vacor," Mira said simply. "His name is Vacor. He's the second son of the Tereki War Master." The temperature in the observation deck seemed to drop. The shard representative's crystalline structure refracted light in sharp, angry patterns. Even the normally placid quelon rippled with disturbance. "And before you ask," Mira continued, looking directly at Kex and Tivy, "no one is going to do anything about it. The Tereki have valuable mineral rights in the outer reaches. They're important to the coalition. I'm just one human liaison." "Just?" Kex's voice rose to a pitch that made several species representatives wince. "You think you are just one human?" Tivy moved closer, reaching up with one delicate limb to hover near Mira's bruise without quite touching. "You told us humans believe all lives have value. Was that a lie?" "No," Mira said firmly. "But it's complicated." "It is not complicated," Kex interrupted. In that moment, despite his small size and soft exoskeleton, he carried the weight of his species' ancient warrior heritage. "We are Kitar. When debt is owed, it is remembered." When harm is done to those under our protection, it is answered. This is not complicated. This is simple. Ambassador Thren's translator made a strangled sound as he tried to find diplomatic words. Young ones, you must understand the political. No. Tivi's single word cut through the space like a blade. You understand. Humans protect cubs, all cubs, even cubs not theirs. We saw. We know. Now cubs protect humans. This is fair. This is right. Mira felt something tight in her chest loosen slightly. She'd spent 6 months on the Exodus Dawn, representing humanity to dozens of species, each with their own complex social hierarchies and political calculations. She'd been injured before hazards of first contact work, but always with the understanding that she was expendable in the grand scheme of interstellar diplomacy. But here were 2 cubs, barely old enough to attend diplomatic functions, insisting on her value with an absoluteness that no treaty could match. Vacor, Kex repeated, his antennae memorizing the name with the perfect recall of his species. When we are grown, we will find him. We will explain that harming humans who protect cubs is unacceptable. Explain is such a diplomatic word, Tivi added, and there was something in her harmonic tone that suggested Kitar cubs understood irony perfectly well. Mira reached out slowly, letting each cub touch her hands with their antennae, the Kitar gesture of trust and family. Thank you, she said simply. Both of you. You don't thank family, Kex replied. You defended us. We defend you. This is how pack works. How pride works. Humans taught us this word pride. We have pride in you. Mira Lockwood. As the cubs finally allowed Ambassador Thren to guide them away, Mira stood slowly, wincing at her bruised ribs. The other species representatives watched her with new calculation in their eyes. The shard's crystalline structure pulsed with thoughtful light. The Quellan had reformed into a more attentive shape, because they had all just witnessed something that no amount of diplomatic briefings could have conveyed. Humans didn't just form bonds across species lines. They inspired them, and perhaps more importantly, they inspired the young to demand accountability, to insist on justice, to remember names. Ambassador Thren approached her quietly. You realize what you've started? The Kitar cubs will never forget this. In 20 cycles, they'll be full warriors, and they'll remember who hurt a human who protected them. Mira touched her bruised face gently and smiled despite the pain. Good, she said. Maybe by then, we won't have to accept getting hurt as just part of the job. Maybe by then, the whole galaxy will understand what those cubs already know, that every life matters, even the just one human lives. Outside the viewport, stars wheeled in their ancient dance, indifferent to the small dramas of flesh and chitin and crystal. But aboard the Exodus Dawn, 2 cubs repeated a name to themselves, memorizing it with the perfect recall of a species that never, ever forgot their debts. Vacor. The name would wait. 20 cycles was nothing to those who remembered.